Hi, I'm Erin Marcus, former corporate executive turned entrepreneur and founder and CEO of Conquer Your Business. Welcome to the Ready Yet podcast. We're excited to bring you more than 100 episodes of interviews and insights designed to help entrepreneurs get the financial and emotional freedom they need in order to build a business and a life they're proud of. All right. Hello, and welcome to this episode of the Ready Yet podcast. And I have to say, one of the things I love about today's guest is I asked her the same exact question that I have asked 250 other people. How do I pronounce your name? And she's the only person that gave me a sarcastic answer, which makes her my new best friend.
Right. Sarcasm. It just wasn't what you were expecting. That's all.
True. It was true. So, welcome to my guest today, Michelle Nedelec. When I asked her how do I say her last name correctly, she said quickly, which it does. It sounds really cool when you say it fast. So, welcome. Why don't you tell everybody a little bit more officially who you are and what you do?
Awesome. So, I'm Michelle Nedelec. I run a company called Awareness Strategies. And we are business strategists, and my partner in Business and Pleasures, I like to say, is CIO, and he takes care of small businesses to help them to automate and streamline their businesses so that they can scale. He's the techie smart one, and I'm the colorful. If it has to do with words and pictures, it's me. If it has to do with numbers and acronyms, it's him.
Oh, that's so right. I tell people all the time, one of the things that absolutely changed my business and changed my life is to have spent a ton of time and money and energy and effort to be able to look someone in the eye and say, look, this is what I'm great at. But the better part of that is to say, look, see all that stuff over there? I can't do that. I don't touch it. Nobody wants me to do it. The world's a better place when I don't try. Like the whole
This reminds me when I was a young'un once upon a time, they said, what are your rules for marriage? I said, I don't wash windows and I don't do your laundry. And they went, oh, no wonder you're single. And I went, really? Those are your rule breakers?
That's where you're
those are your rule breakers. I do not want to be, I'm not doing your laundry. I'm not washing your window. And if you think that's what a good wife does, we have clearly differing opinions.
Well, so we had Thanksgiving, we hosted Thanksgiving, and I, talking to people as we're getting ready. And I said, I don't do any of the cooking. And people look at me like, oh my gosh, you don't do. I'm like, the guests are happy. Trust me, the guests are much happier that I'm not cooking than if I were cooking.
Right. And if we could just take that simple skill set into business, go, no, this is what I'm doing and this is what I'm not doing.
Right.
So many more would be so much more successful.
Be so much more successful, and happier. Right. I get it in the beginning. There's some bootstrapping that has to happen, but I do not understand for the life of me. I just don't get it. Why so many people, because you and I work with people at a similar point in their business where they know what they do, they're making some money, but now we really want to scale this.
Yes.
What I get in the beginning, why you're bootstrapping things and doing things you don't know how to do. Why in the world do people stay there? I think
because they need it to be hard. They really need it to be hard. If it's not hard, in my generation, once upon a time, Flintstones were on at 4:00.
Right.
You went home from school, you sat down in front of the TV and you watched Flintstones. And if your parents came in during that time, is like, you got to get up and go and do something useful. And I think it took away that moment of, I had this thing that I was looking forward to. I finally get to do it and I get to be there. And then it's like, oh, I'm not allowed to do that because it's fun. I'm not allowed to do that because it's easy. I'm not allowed to do that because it's not productive to the family. It's not, and all of these things, like when we're little, we have an emotional moment, but in those emotional moments, we make 5,000 decisions. Yeah. And I think that has to be looked at for people, especially entrepreneurs, because the majority of us are ADD. The majority of us are, kind of see students, not in that we're not smart enough, but in that we're kind of like, I'll do it the easiest way I can to get the result I want. And if that means, I'll crack a book open when I have to, or if I'm
interested in it, not when you think I should. Yes.
Exactly. And then we kind of we have to do this internal reflection of, okay, why am I doing these dumb things in life when I'm in my 40s, 50s, like
Right.
at some point it's got to end, right? And we have to look at that. Why do I insist on doing things that are hard that I don't like when I could be doing things that are fun and interesting and, and not get emotionally hijacked throughout the day?
It's so true. And I think especially when we have that work ethic, right? Blue collar work ethic, Midwest work ethic, farmer work ethic. There's like 85 different things you can call it, but it seems that the whole generation has it, where if it's worthy, then it was hard to get there. Otherwise, you aren't worthy of the result.
Right. Which is so ridiculous because there were so many things that we were naturally talented at, but we were told we couldn't. And the funny thing is while I've been, in my experience working with entrepreneurs, the ones that are artistic will get in trouble for not doing cranial things. The ones that are cranial will get in trouble for reading books and not going out and playing with their friends. The ones that were
right, no matter what you did, you were wrong.
Doesn't matter.
Oh my God, right?
You're like, hey, okay, can you two just go and change stories? Tell each other what your family was like, pretend those were your families, and now go out and do the thing that you love to do.
But there is some truth, and I just think it was the way that generations raised kids. No matter what you did, it was wrong. One of my best friends was an avid, and still is an avid reader. And her mother used to want her to be outside. And she lived across the street from a park. So she would literally climb a tree and read books up in the tree.
Right. There you go.
But no matter, and that's so interesting because it doesn't mean our parents didn't love us but it was just the way that children were raised, literally to stop you, to control you. Like it was a different approach. Now, here's the thing. The pendulum has swung way too far the other direction. And these
in my kids, humble opinion,
right? My humble, having no children whatsoever and just having conversations. These poor kids have zero coping mechanisms and don't know how to do things that they're going to need to know how to do. And it's
like, and all of a sudden you can appreciate why your parents said, hey, can you go outside and talk to your friends? Because if you don't, I'm just afraid you're not going to know how.
You're not going to, right? I say that like the way that I got my first job, I'll give you another example. So the way that I got my first job is I was told, you have to go get a job. I was 15 years old. And I'm like, well, how do you do that? And my mom's like, see that street over there with all those stores on it? You go into each one and ask them for an application until somebody hires you. Basically what I did. And that has served me well. And I'll give you another example. This is an observation I've made recently. I've somehow made several really good business friends with people out of the Mormon community. Like I met a bunch of, fantastic, right? Mm-hmm. So they all have, and I do not know the right language for this, so I'm going to apologize ahead of time, but they go, I think it's missions that they have to go on missions, right? And they literally go door to door asking people to have conversations with them. The people that I've met are the nicest people with absolutely zero fear around sales.
Right.
They're not pushy. They're not jerks, but they also have, so they're not falling into that pushy salesman.
I can't talk to anybody and I'll just be nice. And I'm sorry. Am I interrupting you? Don't let me intrude on your day.
And they're doing magnificent work with wonderful people because this thing that they had to do that we all make fun of them for, this thing that they had to do basically as young adults, got them just right over a fear that is stopping the rest of the country from getting anywhere.
Right. Well, and interestingly enough, Buddhists have the same thing when they go begging. It's to them, my understanding is that it's about getting rid of all of the attachment to what are they going to think of me? Am I good enough? It's not that they need money. It's that that's your job now. You have nothing. Go out and ask for some money. Go feed yourself because we're not giving you anything right now. So I guess they do and they need the money. And it's an ability to be able to get rid of the limiting beliefs that are stopping us from asking people for help. And the irony of it is most people love to help. Right? You see somebody stopped on the side of the road, especially the further north you go. because you know that there's something radically wrong, and that if they don't get help soon, somebody's going to die.
Right.
We stop by the side of the road,
buried in
right? We stop them and say, hey, are you okay? Do you need some help? And it really kind of freaks people out. And they're like, well, yeah, but why would you do that? Well, and don't want you to sit and die at the side of the road.
Right. And
I don't mind helping.
True. Like somewhere in the middle of all of these, if you take the directness, jokingly rude directness of the East Coast, and the Midwest nice, which is where I live, right? Like, and the West Coast, I don't know, what would you, like, we all have our own versions of this. And
our perceptions and our judgment and our
right, like,
of course,
right, about ourselves and about others. And the more success I have in my business, the more I realize what I have to do to be successful, the more people that I talk, the more conversations like this I have to. The biggest shock to me when I came out of corporate continues to be the number one truth about the whole thing. It's not what I'm doing, it's who I'm being and how I'm thinking.
Absolutely. So interestingly, I wrote a book called Business Ownership Mindset, and understanding how the rules of the game are completely different. So in my humble opinion, we come into the world as consumers. We need food, we need water, we need shelter, we need, and we ask for what we want, usually in the form of screaming until we can articulate it. And then we get to a certain point where our parents go, hey, go get a job, make some money. And so we become employees, right? And the rules of the job of being an employee is very similar to school, and they have constructed it that way so that we would be good employees, and so that poor teachers with limited skill set and resources can handle 20, 30,
50 in my case, because Chicago, thank you.
Yeah, disturbed children in a room while going through hormonal changes and all the things we go through at the time. I feel so sorry for teachers.
I don't know how.
Bless you, and I love you. And then they go into, so some will go into the union for the protection, the safety. That is not my tribe, but I get it. And my tribe will go on to become either management or sales, because they want to be able to be in control of either decisions or money or both. And then eventually become entrepreneurs, because they're like, hey, there's a freedom there that exists. And it's not just a freedom from time constraints and money restraints. It's a freedom to be able to do what you want, when you want, how you want to do it, and to be able to find the resources and discover your ability to be able to create such that you can survive on your own doings. So you're, as they say, the locus of control is no longer external to you, it's now internal to you. So in my kind of discoveries of this, each phase has very different rules, right? In unions, you do not stand up and raise your head and say, hey, I can do this better, because you get shut down by the 6 people that have to work with you and put up with you after this meeting to go, like, why did you just make all of our lives hell? Whereas in the entrepreneurial world, you have to stand up and say, I can do this smarter, faster, easier, and you're going to pay me to figure out or how to implement it, or how to get you to implement it more precisely. Right. I'm not going to be doing it. You're going to figure out how to do that. And it's the magic of figuring out what this conditioning is that we've had. And is it really solving our problem for us, or is it creating more problems now than it's solved? Understanding that the intention was always to give us a skill set that we needed in order to be able to survive.
And one of the things you said just now, when you bringing that to a point, is one of my favorite things. Will this help me solve the problem, or will it not help me solve the problem? And I find when I am at these different precipices, because this is an iterative process. You don't, I have removed the word, I just need to fix something, because there's no such thing. Number one, it implies it's broken and makes you feel bad. And number two, it makes you think like there's this miraculous day when there won't be a problem anymore. And that ain't happening either. But I do get very black and white about, is this moving me toward it, or is this moving me away from it? And if I use that framework as my litmus test in guiding my decisions, I found that helps, because otherwise we spiral, right? We kind of get stuck if we're not black and white clear. This is either propelling me forward as fast as I want it, or it's propelling me in the other direction, because there's no standing still.
Absolutely. So in the irony of it, we used to, in one of our courses, and I might have to bring this back, we give people a little card that says, is this getting me closer to my goal? Yes or no? Period. End of story. So it could be, I'm being really nice to somebody, which obviously is a good thing to do.
Right. We don't have to not be.
But sometimes in a business decision, somebody doesn't want you to be nice to them. They want you to give you the truth. Sometimes people just want you to tell them what they should do. Sometimes people just want something else other than the niceties. I'm not saying there's anything bad with the niceties. I'm not saying you shouldn't always be quote unquote nice to people, but sometimes the nicety is what's killing your business.
Yeah.
And you have to be able to differentiate those things and figure out, what does it mean to me and how do I get to where I need to go in order to be more productive for not only me, but this person in front of me too.
There's a book, and I forget who wrote it. It's a collaboration between a business coach and a storyteller who was on the British gold medal winning rowing. There's a different word. What's rowing? What I forget what the real word is.
Rowing teams.
Does it make the boat go faster? That's the name of the book. Does it make the boat go faster? And it was literally like they went from obscurity sucking to gold medal.
Like as bad as me if I were in a boat.
Please, just like 5 feet tall. There's no leverage in this body whatsoever. Right? So,
right? Because you
right.
think more power, more
Yeah.
I'm going to go faster is going to help you. And when you're on a team, that's not going to get you
Not
there
the
faster.
case,
You're
right?
going to start whacking each other's paddles. You're not going to be in
Does it make
cohesion.
the boat go faster? And it really, what I like about it is it's not just what we're talking about, black or white, but the other piece that I've seen for people who really want to propel forward, for people who really want to scale businesses, are all of your assets pointing in the same direction. Like you and I both were like, I know
here.
Right. You've been working with people who've piecemealed their business together and it's wonderful and they've got some revenue going, and I work with people who've built this business around themselves. But like along the way, you lose track of all the pieces, and sometimes they're not all pointing in the same direction.
And in fact, you should get to a point where they're not all facing a direction, because if you haven't done that in the setup stage or the startup stage, as I call it, then you're missing out because you haven't, quote unquote, thrown enough spaghetti up at the wall to see what sticks. So if you're struggling in that startup phase, it's because you're not trying enough stuff. You're thinking that, oh, this is a great idea I had. Everybody is going to love my idea, and nobody responds to it. And you're like, okay, no.
Right.
Or and 6 people responded to it, which is almost more dangerous because now you're stuck with 6 people.
It's okay. But also, if you don't do the mindset work we were talking about first, when that idea doesn't work, it's gonna take you 6 months to recover to try your next idea.
Exactly. So when you find you've done 50 things and one of them is actually working, like great story of Apple when Steve Jobs went, we're not doing any of these 56 projects anymore. We're only doing iPods. Everybody's like, are you kidding? Like, what is that? Right. And all the engineers freaking out because like, hey, I've been working on this project. It's really good and it's really smart. And now you want me to work on something that plays music? Like, what the hell is that? And as a business owner, you have to make that decision to move forward on that one thing until the marketing becomes monotonous for you. Not boring, but monotonous for you. So we've done this. This is the same thing we're doing. Yes, we do the same thing over and over again because it works. And you put the formula in place, then you get to go and have some fun again and diversify, but not until that thing is up and running and the structure is such that you can make money in your sleep, and you could even sell the company and you know that you'll make money off it.
Well, and one of the things, where we started out this conversation, understanding that most of us entrepreneurs are ADD to some extent, and we tend to be creators,
right?
Right. We want to create something, which means everything in us is screaming against monotony. Like the number one thing I hear from people all the time is, that worked really well. And I'll go, good. Why did you stop doing it then? Right?
It worked so well, I quit.
It worked so well, I stopped doing it, right? Because you get bored. And again, like the mindset to keep an eye on all this, the mindset, the entrepreneur maturity, I don't know, we have to come up with a better phrase for that. Yeah. But having been out in the world of business, the business owner acumen that you required to be able to maneuver through all of this. And I think that for me is where I have helped myself prevent the boredom. Don't reinvent the wheel with the business, figure out how I can go to the next level. Because I've learned, kind of like a dog. So everything is like a dog for me because that's my background. So if I can figure out which dog we're like, then I've got it. And it's about keeping it busy. And if I can put the working dogs all in one place, I can go be the crazy,
Well, and a lot of people too find it in a very interesting position, because if I do that, then who am I as a CEO? What am I supposed to be spending my day doing? Well, you're creating a vision and you're creating cash flow for the business, not in the sense that you're doing sales, but that you're figuring out how do you bring money into the business. So your job is spent pondering.
It's right. I mean, one of my friends, Josh, describes it that your role as a CEO is an asset allocation.
Yeah.
Where are you putting the effort? Where are you putting the money? Where are you putting the resources? It's in allocating the assets to the outcomes that you want.
And don't get stuck micromanaging somebody's job. It's in the pondering of it and contemplating, okay, is this best time and use? And if you have to go do interviews, but it's to be able to look at the bigger picture of your business, because most people can't see the bigger picture, even if it's only outside of one department. Then all of a sudden, now you have the job of CEO because you can see outside that department. If you can see outside of 10 departments, you're laughing because now you have a 10 department type company. And that in itself is that ability to see that big picture, and how do all of the pieces integrate with each other, and how do we streamline everybody's job so that they are having fun, they're effective, they love coming into work in the day, and our cash flow is rocking it. And if you can do that on a daily given basis, you're rocking it.
Right. And the two mistakes that I see people make trying to get to this point, they hire task rabbits, I call it. You got to hire for horsepower. You can't hire task rabbits, because then all you do is replace doing the work with managing the work.
Yes.
You have to hire. And the other thing is the mindset, the thought that the bigger your business gets, oftentimes it removes you further and further away from the thing the business does. And most people go into business to do the thing the business does because they love it, they're good at it, they know how to do it. And becoming a business owner can move you away from it. There's ways to stay involved. There's ways to keep
absolutely that. There is. A lot of people don't realize, one, you don't have to run a business as a CEO or a COO as the business owner. Just like if you sold the business, you're not doing those roles. So clearly the business can run without you in those roles. You can work from the front. You can volunteer from the front. You can do part-time from the front. You can start another company doing it from the front. There's a lot of weird ways that you can do the thing that you love to do.
You can become the premium. You can become the prize. The premium people pay more for. Exactly. Well, there's other people to do it as well. 100%.
And it doesn't matter if you're a painter, an engineer, a lawyer, whatever the task is that your business does. And it gets a little weirder when you go into things like a pharmaceutical company or a healthcare company and go, yeah, but the thing I'm good at is like meeting with people. It's like, great, meet with people. And make sure that these jobs are taken care of, because if they're not taken care of, you don't have a job to come back to.
You don't get to meet with anybody. Right? You don't get to meet with anybody. So let's do a quick origin story on you. How did you get here? I know you do a lot of different things, but how did you land here?
How did I get here? Well, it all started in summer of '69, as I like to tease. I started my first, not one, but 3 businesses in Inuvik in the Northwest Territories, which I do not recommend anybody does. Do not move away from the public and decide, hey, I think I'll start a business, let alone 3 of them. Do not ever start 3 businesses, let alone at the same time. Like epically dumb moves. However, I did learn a ton, and we like to tease in that one. One of the businesses that I started was a tanning salon. And as I say, the phones were ringing off the hook, but they wanted to get their I got to get this straight because I'm screwing it up lately. They wanted to get their hides tanned, not their wives tanned. So anybody from the tri-state area, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Chicago,
Anybody in California is like, what? I don't get it.
That's hysterical.
Right. Well, we figured, there's a bunch of people up there that want to go on holidays, and I don't care who you are, you're going to turn white when you live north of the Arctic Circle.
You need a base coat, right? You
need a base coat before you go down. And so we brought up tanning beds, and people, they weren't voting off the hook, but they couldn't wrap their head around what we were, especially if they hadn't seen a tanning salon before. Kind of funny. Like, okay, we got to rework this one. We were one of the first ones to open up bed and breakfast up there. And I thought, like, cool. And my spouse at the time, he's like, oh yeah, there's this thing called the internet. You could totally do a web page and get it set up. And I'm like, what? Yeah.
Well, and I'm so stuck on the tanning bed to get tan. No one sees your skin. Right? No one sees your skin.
All they can see is about this much.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah, that was hilarious. It's like, yeah, that was not a good way to start businesses, but I did get the entrepreneurial bug, which was funny, because you would think that would have deterred me. Really would have.
Of course not.
But we had a great conversation with business coach when we were doing the financials and all that kind of fun stuff. And I'm like, how am I supposed to know? I've never run a business before. He's like, well, you bought a business. Like, do you not know their financials? And it's like, no, we're ripping out the building. We're putting in new stuff because we wanted to. And to me, the whole doing our financials, doing those projections, all that kind of stuff, it was like being able to wave a magic wand and being able to create whatever I wanted. And it was like, that is awesome. Because it wasn't just making up numbers. It was making up numbers that I was going to then create and figure out a plan.
The way that I describe it is along the way, I figured out I absolutely love the puzzle of business.
Right? It is a fascinating puzzle. And you throw in a couple of human beings in there, and it is like endless.
Which lever, right? Which levers do we need to pull? Let's measure everything, test things, right? How can I take this crazy amount of information, crazy amount of opportunity and quest decisions and make it go in a specific direction?
Exactly. Yeah. Super fun.
But you and I are weird, so who knows?
The two things I will never bore of is the human mind and the simplicity with complexity and duplicity of business.
Yeah, absolutely.
Keep it simple.
So after your multitudes of failures, which I love, by the way, how did we land on the things that work? Oh,
I think trial and error. And I think I've thrown enough spaghetti up at the wall that I've figured out, oh yeah, this is the way we're going. And it's being able to kind of hone in on that, on the one area of, I do business strategy really well. I can talk about that all day and people are like, oh, this solves all the problems of the universe. This is awesome. I'm like, yeah, good. Let's go. Let's go do it. Let's get rid of whatever this stuff is. The indecision, the whatever's stopping you from making those choices to be able to move forward on it. And let's rock this, because business and success is fun.
It's, you know what? I don't even know that you can say it more simpler than that. If that's not enough of a reason to learn how to navigate, it's so much, as tumultuous as it can be, as stressful as it can be. It's kind of like, what is that analogy they say about golf? Like you can play the whole game. You just get one good hit and it keeps you motivated, right? To go back again. It's the same thing with business. It really is so rewarding and so much fun when you see things starting to work.
Right. And when things are working and you're crazy enough to go, hey, let's go break it.
Let's go break it and see
what happens then. And it's like, yeah, I get it. And it's fun.
Awesome. If people want to continue this conversation with you, and I highly, highly recommend they do, how do they find you? What's the easiest way to get a hold of you?
Excellent. The easiest way to get a hold of me, I had to laugh because I'm going, and then they have to be able to say Nedelec. But if you do find Michelle Nedelec, I am one of 5 of us on the planet, and I'm the only one that speaks English, I think. So when Facebook first came out, I searched up all my Michelle Nedelecs and connected with them, which is just super fun. You're
There
gonna
was
also
only one other Erin Marcus I used to come across, and she's a doctor. But then somehow there was an Erin Marcus at my doctor's office, and they used to grab the wrong chart all the time. I was very excited about it because I think I'm 15 years older than her. So I was very excited about the fact that they couldn't tell us apart. I was very proud of that.
Sounds hilarious. Like, yeah, no, not me. Awarenessstrategies.com. We will always have some super fun stuff for business owners to go and check out. We currently have 3 ways to fix your lead gen through podcasts. So if you want to streamline your social media marketing, you're sick and tired of putting out cat videos that are working for you and you're wondering why, you want to create something that's enticing and monetizing and doesn't take a whole ton of your time. Happy to show you that. And there was one other thing we are looking at. Once upon a time, I used to do the revenue generating calculator or a lost revenue calculator and figuring out what tasks need to be allocated and given to experts in order for you to become more effective, more efficient, and how much money you can make as a business if you do the things that bring you in that revenue. So that one's super fun. So we'll bring that one back. We'll have links for that for you.
Awarenessstrategies.com.
That's us.
Awesome. Thank you so much for spending time with me today. I love talking to you all the time.
Awesome. I had a great time. Thank you for having me.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Ready Yet podcast. I truly enjoy bringing these stories of success and inspiration to you. Please join us in our mission to empower entrepreneurs to be in charge of their businesses and in charge of their lives by sharing this with anyone you know who would benefit from our tactical and motivating advice, leaving us a review, and letting us know if there are any particular topics you would really appreciate hearing about. See you next time.